This is the Valve Index, one of the best VR headset packages that we have seen yet, but realistically, this is not the everyman's HMD. So is the Index right for you? More importantly, is it worth the price tag? I think by the conclusion of this video you'll have a solid grasp of whether or not the Index is right for you, but to make it easier to digest, I'm going to break down this review into 5 segments, starting with build, video, audio, controllers, software, and of course ending with the big question. If this thing is worth it for your situation, because I will be honest, the Index does not present the best value in terms of a VR headset. If you fall into a certain category, you'd honestly be better off looking at other headsets. However, if you fall under a certain situation like mine, then the Index is the absolute best choice for you, no question. Like I said, we'll take a close look at those specific situations after we get through each juicy detail of this headset, and break down each one individually just to see how good or bad this thing really is. We're going to start off with the banger here, the build quality, because if there's one thing that the Valve Index does better than any other headset I have ever held, it's that, build quality. This thing head to toe, from the packaging to the base stations, just feels like a premium product. Holding it next to my old CV1 or comparing this to the complaints I had about the Rift S really makes you appreciate the Index and kind of softens the blow that you just spent $1,000 on a VR headset. And speaking of soft, the padding and t-shirt material used on both the facial interface and back of the head strap feels better than any foam I've ever seen on a stock headset. I normally put VR covers on everything, but I don't think I will here. Yeah, this material does have the potential to soak up sweat over time and is not as easy to clean as the vegan leather that I normally use, but the feeling of this material on your face makes me feel like it's a decent trade-off for a little bit more maintenance. One negative I do have about this headset's build is the added weight. It's heavier than most PC HMDs I have used, but I have to say, my 3-hour session sitting down playing Overwatch and my multi-hour long sessions that I have played with other games, the way this headset straps down to your face really makes the weight disappear by dispersing it throughout the device and your head. If you're worried about the added weight, I really wouldn't be. There are quite a few moving pieces on this headset, and the first one is of course the IPD adjustment. Then you have the head strap adjuster on the back that feels pretty nice and robust, and the interesting one is the eye relief adjustment. This moves the lenses closer and further away from your face so that you can get the optimal viewing angle and sweet spot, as well as increasing the FOV. And speaking about the sweet spot, I think that's a perfect time to jump into just how good is the Index's video. The Valve Index uses 2 LCD panels to provide 1440 by 1600 resolution per eye, and inherently an LCD panel is not going to provide as good of contrast or colors as an OLED. But hear me out about this if you're scared about the black levels or color washing on the Index. If you're coming from an Oculus Rift CV1 or an original HTC Vive, this display will blow your mind with the clarity. The downsides of an LCD panel feel really minimized here, and the benefits of the LCD panel are pushed to their limits and maximized. I got used to the color balance of the displays within a few minutes, and not once did I feel like the black levels broke my immersion. If I was in a dark room in VR, it felt like I was in a dark room. That's that. It's true, the colors aren't the most vibrant that I've ever seen on a display, but that doesn't mean that they're bad either, by any means. You want to know what I really didn't notice though? The screen door effect. Now that is something that broke immersion for me on my CV1. Especially in darker environments where there was a little screen door in front of my face and it looked green and kind of terrible. And that's what I'm talking about by utilizing the strengths of LCD technology. The higher pixel density really provides a crisp, clean image, and the real killer feature here is the refresh rate. Running at either 80, 90, 120, or 144 Hz, you not only get a crisp image, but motion looks more fluid than ever in VR. That's really what separates this headset from others, and is the biggest thing to consider if you want this headset. If you're hearing people say that the refresh rate really doesn't matter, it's probably because their PC isn't actually pushing their frames. They're not utilizing the high refresh rate. And if your PC isn't capable of hitting those refresh rates at this resolution, well, we'll go more into that in the Is This For You section, but you're gonna need a powerful PC here. Field of view is really noticeably increased if you put the eye relief slider as close as you can to your eyes, while comfortable of course. So the image is crisp, refresh rate is amazing, field of view is pretty impressive, colors are okay, if not slightly above average, contrast is acceptable, But none of that really matters if you can't get the image to look good, and that's where the debate about the sweet spot comes in. The reason why this headset has so many ways to adjust the position to your face is because it has a pretty small, what's called a sweet spot, where your eyes line up with the lenses just right, the IPD is set up correctly, and the planets align to provide a perfect VR image. If you've been wary about people saying that there is excessive glare or God rays, yes, there are God rays when you have highly contrasting things on screen, but if you take just a couple minutes to really sit down with the index, adjust the top strap, head strap tension, and of course the focal length adjuster, you can get rid of most, if not all, of the God rays and glare. And it will mostly stay in that sweet spot position, at least in my experience, if you set it up correctly. If you just throw on the headset without taking that little bit of effort and time, you will get noticeable God rays that are really distracting. Take that as a negative or a positive if you want, because you could fix it. In the current climate of VR headsets, I'm going to consider this just a neutral characteristic of the index. You can get a super amazing image that will maintain the clarity and get rid of most of the God rays. It just takes a little bit of initial effort to get it there. So the video quality is good, but great immersion in a VR game comes when you combine that image with good audio. I love a great audio experience, and while I wouldn't call myself an audiophile, as I really don't get into the nitty-gritty of range frequencies or monitor quality audio, I can say that I'm an audio enthusiast, and the sound quality on the index has made me smile on multiple occasions. I don't want to give it credit as some insanely high-quality audio device that rivals studio monitors or something, but in VR, it does its job better than any VR headset that I've used. The directional sound and bass is fantastic for immersion, and I've turned around in games directly because of the incredible 3D audio, and really brings immersion to the next level. In games like Beat Saber, you're going to be able to feel the songs, and these speakers do get really loud. I didn't notice any terrible distortion in very bassy songs or with the volume up too high. These awesome speakers don't come without a caveat though. If the volume is up very high, you will have just a little bit of sound bleed into your microphone. Also, since these speakers are not headphones or earphones, you can hear your surroundings. They don't actually sit on your ear. I personally don't like to hear cars outside my house or a dog barking while I'm in space, time traveling. But I know a lot of people like having that real-life spatial awareness. Hearing your surroundings really isn't that big of a deal if you just increase the volume enough, and it does have enough oomph to drown out almost everything, but that is something I had to note. The microphone quality is pretty awesome as well, definitely the best I have ever used on a VR headset. I really appreciate a quality mic, and I'm not sure what they used in this exactly, but once I did a live EQ of the index mic, the same thing I do for my current mic 24/7, you could get a truly surprising result. Here's the nice mic that I use for my videos. Testing the microphone quality, virtual reality is really cool. And here's the Valve Index microphone. Testing the microphone quality on the Valve Index. Virtual reality is really cool. Both using the same EQ, pretty impressive if you ask me. Enough about the headset, let's talk controllers. So let's have a quick conversation about the knuckles. I'm not sure if this is a trait of the controller or a design flaw or even a defect, but just like all other thumbsticks on controllers, it's supposed to click in and give you an additional added button press, which it does, but it only makes the audible and physical click reliably when the thumbstick is pointed straight up. I know a lot of people have been really upset about this, and it seems like this is how the controller is designed, but I can't be for sure. I don't know why Valve wouldn't allow button presses from any angle, but it hasn't necessarily bothered me, I guess. I mean, I would much rather have these buttons be able to be actuated from anywhere, which they do most of the time, just you have zero feedback if, for example, you're clicking from this angle. Like I said, I don't know why they've designed it this way, but I thought I would mention it. It hasn't necessarily bothered me, but it's something to note. Also, the thumbstick is just kind of in a weird spot, and if you use the thumbstick the way I do, your thumb is at a weird angle. It took me some getting used to, but now it doesn't feel so awkward, and all in all, I just kind of wish this trackpad was deleted and in place we got one badass big thumbstick that felt amazing, but that's just my opinion. Other than that, these things are awesome controllers and kind of insane marvels of technology. It amazes me that something so crazy can be a consumer device. I mean, this thing is just packed full of so many sensors and weird technology that most of the time just works. These controllers aren't perfect though, and the biggest problems with these are a fundamental problem with virtual reality and the industry as a whole, not so much the controllers. Even games that say they support the knuckles may not do it perfectly, and I have found that the control schemes can be a little bit wonky. Of course, Valve does provide a tool to customize button mappings, but that's just another thing that you have to do. The good thing about the controller support is that it will get better in time, so if you aren't getting these controllers for a few months, or you're watching this video months after it's posted, the only real negative I have to say about these controllers is likely to have improved significantly by that time. In terms of build and functionality, however, these controllers track extremely well and are responsive. The numerous sensors provide an awesome finger track experience, at least for the games that provide the finger tracking. Now into software and ease of use. Steam VR works for me 98.9% of the time. It seems like every few months I have a wonky ass issue, but I always end up working through it and fixing the problem easily, usually just a full system reset or, downloading the beta for Steam VR. I will say that Steam VR doesn't work quite as well as something like the Oculus application, but you do get more functionality at your fingertips, so it's a positive and a negative. Plus, running 2D Steam games on the headset is extremely easy and set up a simple, and accessing other stores' content like the Oculus Store is a super easy process and works well. You can easily change any setting that you need, change frame rate. Like I said, it just works well. So the software side is good. It's not totally perfect, but it's more than passable. This is another thing that will fortunately get better and better as time goes on as well. Now, more onto the ease of use. If you're like me and enjoy the idea of having something like base stations or Oculus sensors set up in your room, so you know that you're going to have quality tracking no matter what's going on, you'll be happy to hear that the base station 2.0s were an absolute breeze to set up. I have flawless tracking by simply setting up one in one corner of my room and the other in the other corner, set up on the wall. They use one AC power adapter, and the tracking was immediately perfect for room scale once I covered up a mirror in my room. Yeah, you do have to watch out for reflective objects or your experience will not be so good. Setup and ease of use is pretty good. You essentially can set this up and be playing in 10 to 20 minutes, so don't be scared of setting up outside tracking solutions. And I personally like it over inside out, at least for now, until the technology significantly improves. So, is this headset for you? Like I said, to be honest, this is not the everyman's headset. It is amazing, don't get me wrong, but it's not the best value. First, let me explain who this headset is not for. If your PC barely meets minimum specs for VR, or even if you're in the mid-range of VR PC specs, the Index is kind of a hard sell. I would kind of urge you to either upgrade your PC first or just go with something like the Rift S. Some of the biggest reasons why the Index costs so much are the LCD panels that are run at a pretty high resolution of 1440 by 1600 and also the high refresh rate. There is literally no reason to buy an Index if you can't hit at least 90 FPS in games at the native resolution. If you have to drop the resolution below native just to hit a stable 90 FPS, you might as well go with a far cheaper VR headset like the Rift S. It has a lower refresh rate, slightly lower resolution, and will actually run games better for you because of the lower resolution. If you barely meet the minimum specs or you're in the middle of the line in terms of PC specs, you're actually going to have a worse experience playing on the Index versus something like the Rift S due to that native resolution. But if you meet the recommended specs or have something like a GTX 1080 Ti or RTX 2080 Ti, the Index is the only headset that will fully utilize your system, and you will have what I think is the absolute best experience you could possibly have in VR at this time. So to put it simply, if you don't have the power to push the Index, I don't know if it's worth the price. But if you already have a powerful PC or are planning to upgrade, there is no headset that can compare to the Index and do everything as a package as well as the Valve Index. It is the best VR headset on the market right now, but that doesn't mean that it's for everybody. Hope you all enjoyed. If you did, don't forget to like this video, subscribe, and make sure to hit that bell to stay notified on when I post. Become a thrill seeker today by joining up in my Discord. Much love, Thrill out.